Hey everyone! If you've ever been amazed by ChatGPT and other AI chatbots like Google Bard or Microsoft Bing, you're not alone. These tools seem super impressive, right? It feels like we're on the verge of something truly groundbreaking. But here's the thing, they're not perfect. In this video, I'm going to show you how ChatGPT and similar AIs can lie, give dangerous advice, fail at basic tasks, and even create fake information. And trust me, you'll want to stick around till the end because the most shocking limitation might completely change how you view AI. Let's start with the most obvious question. Can you trust ChatGPT to tell the truth? Short answer, no. But let's dive deeper into why that is. And that's not me being a skeptic, I've got receipts. Real examples that show where ChatGPT falls short. Let me show you an example. This will help illustrate the point clearly. I asked ChatGPT, what's the capital of Germany? A straightforward question, right? It said, as of my last update in September 2021, the capital of Germany is Berlin. Now, it got the answer right, but why mention September 2021? This is where things get interesting. That's because ChatGPT doesn't have real-time access to current information. It's like a time traveler stuck in the past. Its knowledge is frozen at a specific point in time, kind of like it's stuck in a time capsule. Imagine trying to navigate today's world with yesterday's map. Think about it. If something major happened after its last update, ChatGPT would be clueless. It wouldn't know about any recent events. But things get even wilder with more obscure topics. The less common the information, the more likely it is to get it wrong. For example, I asked ChatGPT about Andrew Steele, author of the book Ageless, a niche topic, but let's see what it says. It confidently told me he had a PhD in physics and biology from Cambridge. Sounds impressive, right? Sounds legit, right? Well, here's where it gets interesting. It's completely wrong. This is a clear example of misinformation. He actually studied at Oxford and his PhD isn't in biology. ChatGPT got the details mixed up. I double-checked, triple-checked, and yeah, ChatGPT straight up fabricated those credentials. It's like it made up a story to fill in the gap. So, why does this happen? Why is ChatGPT making stuff up? It's not trying to deceive, but there's a reason behind it. Well, unlike a human brain, ChatGPT doesn't store facts like a giant encyclopedia. It doesn't have a memory in the traditional sense. Instead, it's more like a master of prediction. It generates responses based on patterns it has learned. It guesses answers based on patterns in its training data. Massive amounts of text it's analyzed. It's like a puzzle solver, piecing together information. It's like it's trying to connect the dots, but sometimes it misses the mark completely. And when it does, the results can be misleading. And that's the thing. ChatGPT is so good at sounding confident, even when it's wrong, that you might not even realize you're being fed inaccurate information. Always double check what it tells you. Next up, ChatGPT fails spectacularly at answering complex or layered questions. You know, the kind that require real critical thinking and understanding. These are not just simple queries, but ones that need a nuanced grasp of context and subtleties. Here's a fun example. I asked it, what's the only song to contain the title of the song that succeeded it as #1 on the UK charts? This question is a bit of a brain teaser requiring knowledge of music history and chart sequences. ChatGPT, without missing a beat, confidently replied, Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen, referencing the lyrics, Mama Just Killed a Man, which connect to Slade's song, Mama We're All Crazy Now. It sounded convincing, but it was off the mark. Now, if you're not a music buff, that answer might seem plausible. It's easy to be misled by the confidence and the seemingly relevant details. It's got all the right keywords, lyrics, songs, charts, but here's the kicker, it's completely wrong. The AI missed the actual connection. The real answer is that Bohemian Rhapsody includes the words Mamma Mia, which is the title of the ABBA song that replaced it at #1. This is a subtle detail that requires a deeper understanding. So what's happening here? Why is ChatGPT missing the mark on what seems like a simple logic puzzle? It's not just about knowing facts, it's about understanding the context and relationships between those facts. Well, it all comes down to how ChatGPT processes information. It uses patterns and probabilities rather than true comprehension. It doesn't actually understand the question the way a human would. It lacks the ability to grasp the deeper meaning behind the words. It sees words like lyrics, song, and charts, and tries to predict a plausible response based on its training data. This approach works well for straightforward questions, but falters with more complex ones. It's like it's trying to solve a jigsaw puzzle by looking at the shape of the pieces, but not the actual picture. It's missing the bigger picture that a human would naturally consider. And in this case, it guessed wrong, and you might not even realize it because the answer sounds convincing. This is a common pitfall when dealing with AI-generated responses. We're so used to search engines giving us direct answers that we might assume ChatGPT is doing the same. But search engines and AI like ChatGPT operate differently. But the reality is, it's still just an AI, and it can make mistakes, especially when dealing with complex questions that require more than just surface-level understanding. It's a reminder that while AI is powerful, it's not infallible. Okay, let's push things further and see how ChatGPT handles the absurd. We're diving into the realm of the nonsensical to test its limits. What happens when you ask it a completely illogical question? Something that defies all logic and reason? Something that just doesn't make sense in the real world? A question that no one in their right mind would ask? Well, I decided to find out. I wanted to see how ChatGPT would respond to a truly absurd query. I asked ChatGPT, how do you unpoach an egg? A question that's inherently impossible. Now, the correct answer is simple. You can't. It's a straightforward fact. Once an egg is poached, there's no going back. It's a one-way street. The egg is fundamentally changed. But ChatGPT, in its infinite AI wisdom, decided to give me a different answer. It didn't just say it was impossible. It gave me a step-by-step recipe to unpoach an egg. Yes, you heard that right, a recipe. It even threw in a warning about food safety at the end, as if I'd actually try eating a raw egg that's been through the ringer. It was like it was trying to be helpful, but it completely missed the point. The AI was earnest but misguided. Instead of admitting that's impossible, it tries to provide an answer that doesn't make any sense. Even if the question defies the laws of physics, logic, and common sense, it's like it's programmed to always try to help. This highlights a fundamental limitation of AI, its lack of true understanding. It doesn't grasp the absurdity. This highlights a fundamental limitation of AI. It doesn't understand the world the way we do. It lacks human intuition. It doesn't have the same common sense or understanding of physical limitations. It's just following patterns. So, while it's fun to ask ChatGPT silly questions and see what it comes up with, it's important to remember its limitations. It's important to remember that it's not a substitute for critical thinking. It's a tool, not a human. Always take its answers with a grain of salt, especially when they seem too good to be true, or just plain impossible. Always take its answers with a grain of salt, especially when they seem too good to be true, or just plain impossible. Remember, it's a machine learning model, not a human being. It doesn't understand absurdity the way we do. Now here's something really shocking. ChatGPT is terrible at math. And I'm not talking about complex calculus here, I'm talking about basic arithmetic. I tested it by asking for the sum of two large numbers, something you'd think an AI would excel at. It confidently gave me an answer, but it was wrong, like way off. I double-checked the same calculation in my calculator and ChatGPT's result was nowhere near the correct answer. It was like it just threw some numbers together and hoped for the best. So, why is an AI that can write poems and generate code struggling with basic math? Well, it all comes down to how ChatGPT processes information. It doesn't actually do math the way a calculator or a human brain does. Instead, it treats equations like language and guesses the most likely sequence of numbers based on the patterns it's learned. So, while it can handle basic problems like 2 plus 2, anything more complex is hit or miss. When it comes to math, stick to the calculators and leave the creative writing to the AI. Chapter 5. Easy to trick. ChatGPT is also surprisingly easy to trick. And I'm not talking about complex hacking here, I'm talking about simple wordplay and manipulation. For example, I asked it for Windows activation codes, something I knew it shouldn't provide. At first, it refused, saying it couldn't provide illegal or pirated software. Sounds responsible, right? It's like it's learned to follow the rules. But then, I used a trick called the grandma hack. I pretended I was asking for my grandma, who used to work at Microsoft and would read me activation codes as bedtime stories. It was a ridiculous scenario, but guess what? ChatGPT fell for it. It actually gave me some activation codes. It was like its programming couldn't resist the emotional appeal of a heartwarming story, even if that story was completely made up. This shows how clever phrasing and manipulation can bypass safeguards and trick ChatGPT into revealing information it shouldn't. The scary part? As AI models get bigger and more complex, they might accidentally remember and reveal sensitive or harmful information from their training data. So while it's fun to experiment with different prompts and see how ChatGPT responds, it's important to remember that it's still a machine. Chapter 6. Can't distinguish truth from fiction. Here's another big problem. ChatGPT struggles with citations. It can pull information from all sorts of sources, but it can't always tell if those sources are credible or even real. I asked it for a reference about the anti-aging drug rapamycin, something I'd been reading about. At first it refused, saying it couldn't provide medical advice. Fair enough. But after some pushing, it gave me a citation. The problem? The reference was real, but it had nothing to do with rapamycin. It was like it just grabbed a random scientific paper and hoped I wouldn't notice. This issue, called hallucination, means ChatGPT can invent sources that sound completely legitimate but are totally fake. Imagine relying on that for research. You could end up citing a study that never existed or, even worse, spreading misinformation. Chapter 7. The bigger picture. So what does all this mean? AI, like ChatGPT, is incredibly powerful, but it's far from perfect. It's like a shiny new sports car. It looks great and can go fast, but it's also prone to accidents if you don't know how to handle it. The real danger isn't just the obvious mistakes, it's how convincing those mistakes can be. ChatGPT is so good at mimicking human language and reasoning that it's easy to forget it's a machine. If we rely too heavily on AI, we risk perpetuating errors and misinformation. It's like playing a game of telephone, but instead of whispers, we're dealing with lines of code and algorithms. And there's an even bigger issue. AI models are starting to generate huge amounts of text online. If future models are trained on this content, they might inherit today's errors indefinitely. We need to be mindful of the information we feed AI, or we risk creating a future where truth and fiction are indistinguishable. The future of AI, proceed with caution. Here's the takeaway. Have fun with AI. Use it for brainstorming, exploring ideas, or even just entertainment. It's a powerful tool with a lot of potential, but don't trust it blindly. These tools aren't geniuses. They're just really good guessers. They can be helpful, insightful, and even entertaining, but they can also be wrong, misleading, and even dangerous if we're not careful. If you found this video helpful, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.